Good evening, everyone. The Durham Public Schools Board of Education budget hearing is now in session. At this time, we wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone who's joining us this evening. The interpreters for tonight are Yvette Perez and Karen Reyes. Thank you all for taking the time to join us. The next item on our agenda is a moment of silence. I will acknowledge while we take this moment of silence, we have a Durham Public Schools graduate, Riverside graduate who passed away tragically this week, State Trooper Mr. Perry. And so I want to acknowledge him and his family who are DPS, part of our DPS family as we take this moment of silence. And excuse me, we also had a Durham School of Technology teacher who also, her and her husband tragically passed away in the past week or so. So I want to acknowledge both of them as we take this moment of silence. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is agenda review and approval.
Move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Byer, seconded by Ms. Rogers, that we approve the agenda as presented. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please use the same sign. It passes unanimously. That's going to be a 4-0 vote. We have a couple of board members who will be joining us a little later this evening. The next item on our agenda is I think brief presentation from Mr. Cheater, our CFO. I'm going to pass it over to you right now. Mr. Cheater.
All right, thank you, Chair Umstead, board members, and Dr. Lewis. I think we have an attachment of the phase 1 of the superintendent's recommended budget in IT's hands, and if they can cue that up. And so I just want to preface, that this document is the same document that we looked at the board meeting just a few days ago, and I've been working closely with Dr. Lewis and reviewing feedback that we've received from a variety of stakeholders to inform what phase 2 is going to look like. And that will publish with the board materials. So usually those materials publish Monday evening. And so we're pulling that together and trying to have that ready to be reactive. We also want to take into account, we'll have some additional feedback tonight. Pleased to see the crowd. We had, I think, 3 comments last time we went this route. And so I'm looking forward to some feedback tonight that we can take into account as I work with the budget team to finalize the document over the course of the day tomorrow. And so with all that said, we can advance into, I believe it is page 8 or so, or really page 9 of the document, if we will move forward there. So just a little farther. So we can go one more page, please. Maybe one more. Thank you. Okay, we're there. And so we, so obviously this is, right, we discuss very often continuation costs and the reality that we wrestle with as a public school system, as we all do across the state, that we go first in the budget development process. We don't know what things are going to look like for the county, although we did get a little bit of a preview of Durham County's forecast at the meeting last week, but we started this process some time ago and didn't have that at the beginning of the process per se. We're unclear what the state will be doing. So normally, for the public's knowledge, we would be operating from year 2 of a 2-year state budget. And for all intents and purposes, we're in year 0. And so it just did not come together. And naturally, we're very keenly watching the state to see what might happen over the next couple of months. If there's going to be any kind of direction, I think we've got a very closely watched, very tight result with a critical primary in Senate District 26 that I think has some bearings for how the state activity might shake out. And so we're monitoring that, and just the information that we're receiving is that what we get from the state budget largely hinges upon the outcome of that particular election. So that's where I'll kind of park politics for now. And so we just sort of assume in these situations assume certain scenarios that are possible, but also scenarios that are a little more on the higher end that we have seen historically. And so as such, we're preparing for a 5% increase for certified and classified in the absence of better information from the state of North Carolina. Also anticipating the usual increases in benefit rates like state retirement and health insurance. So we went for the sort of more aggressive end in increases there that we have to prepare for. So as they make changes that impact state-funded employees, we account for those implications to touch our employees that are paid from other sources like our local funds. And then certainly other things out of our control at this time that we're preparing for are just potential increases in utilities as Duke Energy is pursuing continues to pursue record increases in rates. And our insurance carriers are always pressuring the Department of Insurance for increases to property and auto insurance rates and so forth in North Carolina. And so we have some new leaders in the state of North Carolina that affect those spaces. And so we're not entirely confident how they'll react as they receive these various pressures from these entities. So we're sort of planning on the higher end for those items as well to make sure that we don't have surprises as we enter the next budget season. With that said, the next sort of section that we look at, right, is the expansion component of the budget. And so the first item, obviously there, right, is the space where we've had sort of tremendous conversation. And this is space where we're even seeing news as recently as last evening. So just we're aware that our partners at Duke University announced a $20 an hour minimum wage for their full-time employees. And so we're still doing some research there to see also, it wasn't clear if that also touched their part-time employees. And so continuing to kind of do some homework there to figure out sort of the situation there. So just another partner and competitor in our space that's pushing in that direction. And so we're sort of sitting with that carefully as we develop the second phase of the recommended budget. And so as a reminder, this is a repeat of sort of the same materials we saw last week. And so we're reflecting the request for additional local dollars to ensure that we would have the ability to at least do the 5% in the absence of the state of North Carolina taking some sort of action to benefit our classified employees. Also lifting up the transportation safety assistance supplement at $100. As I shared at the last board meeting, this is an item that did come onto our radar as a result of the meet and confer process and the advocacy that came from DAE. And so it's not quite the $200 mark, but it's currently the $100 recommendation on the part of the superintendent where that item is concerned. On the next item down on the page, we sort of lift up occupational and physical therapists, and we've received a great deal of feedback regarding that sector of our workforce and the role that they play in the health and the safety of our students and the cost of a potential salary schedule change there of $269,730. In the phase two, we'll be lifting up at the work session conversation around what that might look like for occupational therapy assistants and physical therapy assistants. A smaller, both of these are smaller groups, but that's an even smaller group to work with. And we'll share with the board sort of some cost estimates at the work session of what it might look like to make a change for those employees as well, and wanting to make sure that we're sensitive and reactive to the feedback that we received at the last meeting where that's concerned. If we can advance towards the bottom of the next page, just sort of we had some conversation about the need to reorganize the human resources operation. And so I know I feel comfortable sharing this evening, right, that Dr. Lewis and I have had some conversation around that, and we are likely not to push that forward as an expansion request per se, but we will work within our existing central office resources perhaps to make available the necessary FTEs to support human resources. And what of those positions that were requested are sort of the most critical to move the HR operation forward. And so that's so just wanted to lift up that this may be something that does not move forward. as an additional ask of the county when we move forward to phase two. And that will certainly help us to sort of sharpen up our request and allow us to press in on some other priorities that have come forward to administration and to the board. If we can advance to page 12, sort of near the bottom of page 12, we sort of spend some time in the capital outlay space, right? And so this is the area where we often are making reference to the care of our facilities. And we have a number of funding streams that we discussed at the budget town hall with the community and with the board about resources made available to us. And so we had some conversation about technology as a part of the request this year. And so I will share that, right, the board challenged us to do some homework around how it might look like if we were to phase in devices at particular grade levels. And so with the work session, we're sort of prepared to talk through the board about 612 versus K5. So, sort of working with Dr. Lewis, kind of taking leadership on what that might look like for the school system. So just want you to know that that's a space where we're sharpening our pencil for the second iteration of the draft budget. And so from there, if we sort of roll on to the next page, so these totals have not changed, but there's the potential here that these numbers will shift in some form or fashion at the work session for us to receive feedback at that point in time. But as it stands, so just a little bit shy of 16 million additional request for current expense, and then an additional 3.7 million for capital outlay. I think I will end my remarks there. I know we've got a large crowd, and I just want to allow sufficient time to hear from our partners who are here this evening, and we can take good notes on their feedback rolling forward.
Thank you, Mr. Teeter. That concludes your portion of the presentation. We're going to now move into the public comment. I'm going to do a quick review of the rules before we get started. First, please state your name. And if speaking for an organization, please state your name and the name of the organization. Second, speakers are asked to present their comments within, we're going to do 2 minutes this evening. When the yellow light comes on, you'll have 1 minute left to start winding up your remarks. When the red light comes on, it will beep, which indicates your time is up. Complaints about named staff, students, or parents should not be voiced in open session. However, we're very interested in hearing your concerns and ideas in regard to the budget, public education, safety of students, or to the operations of the school system. Finally, board members will listen carefully and consider your comments, but we do not engage in discussions with speakers. I'm going to call 3 names at a time just so you kind of know where you are in the order. I'm going to start with Millie Rosen, Maria Lopez, and Yamaleth Ramirez.
Hi, Millie Rosen, member of DAE, proud math teacher at DSA, and I'm going to cede to Maria.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es María López. Soy custodian de la escuela Eastway. Estaba en Catons, me trasladé en Eastway. Y le paso el tiempo a mi compañera Yamilet Ramírez. Gracias.
Oh, good evening. My name is Maria Lopez. I'm a custodian at Eastway Elementary. I was previously at Githens, but now I'm at Eastway.
Yo vengo a hablar o a participar sobre de los injustos que están haciendo, porque yo trabajaba en Kittens, yo de 8 horas, yo hacía extra trabajo, yo hacía como 22 salones, más librería, más puertas, más vidrios, más si falta otra compañera, me dan 4 salones extra. Y era mucho cansado. Yo llegaba con mis hijos, yo estresadamente con mi pareja en mi casa. Yo tengo que ayudar a mis hijos con sus tareas todavía. Mi brazo, hasta yo ya sentía, no podía más. Incluso mi esposo me dijo, renuncia, deja el trabajo muy pesado. Pero yo le dije, yo tengo que trabajar porque tengo necesidad. Tengo que, cualquier cosa en mi hogar, tengo que cubrir gastos también. Entonces yo le digo, no voy a dejar el trabajo, mejor me voy a trasladar por 5 horas o 4 horas. Yo pensé era menos, pero no, era igual. Mucho trabajo y el sueldo no nos alcanza porque el sueldo muy poquito no nos alcanza para cubrir los gastos en la casa. Entonces, no. Entonces, yo ahorita, ¿dónde puedo aplicar para buscar un mejor trabajo, para mantener mi hogar? Y digo yo, y mucho trabajo. Entonces, yo no sé cómo puedo hacer, que pueden resolver los que están arriba de los que están encargados de los eso, pueden resolver. A veces no ponen personales extra trabajo para uno, para toda la gente. Entonces, es injusto eso. Entonces, yo pienso que, que, oh,
Se me va a ir lo que está diciendo. I'm here this evening to talk to you about injustices that I have faced. Like I said, I used to work at Githens. I had an 8-hour shift, but I often had to work extra hours. I was responsible for cleaning 22 rooms in a shift. On top of those 22 rooms, I had to clean doors, I had to clean the library, I had to clean windows. And sometimes if one of my colleagues was absent, I would have to clean additional rooms, up to 4 additional rooms in a shift. When I finished my shift, I would come home exhausted. I would come home to my children, to my spouse, exhausted and stressed out. I suffered from pains in my arm. It got to the point that my husband was telling me, "You should quit this job. It's too much work. It's too much for you." And I told him, I don't. What choice do I have? I have to work. We have expenses as a family, our household, our home. We need to pay bills. If I don't work, we can't cover those bills. So I decided to look for work that would be less hours. I thought maybe I could find a different job that would be lighter work, that would be less hours. But the truth is that the pay is not enough for how hard we have to work. We don't earn enough to be able to cover our own expenses. And so my ask today is, where can I go to get a job that is going to have a better pay, that I can actually afford the expenses that my family has?
ok, eso es todo. Le paso el tiempo a Yamilet.
And I'm sorry, the interpreter missed one line from the last in. It was, so what can those who are in charge, those who are above us, who are in charge of things, what can you all do so that people like me don't suffer so much? And I'm going to cede the rest of my time to Yamilet.
Ms. Smith, how much time is left on the clock? Okay, so Yamileth, you'll have 51 seconds of additional time. And we also have our interpreter here to interpret for you.
Ok. Mi nombre es Yamilet, soy custodia de Gittens, acabo de renunciar la semana pasada.
My name is Yamilet. I'm a custodian at Githens, and I just quit last week.
Los cheques de enero estuvieron bajos, los supervisores dijeron que el pago a tiempo parcial está limitado a 80 horas.
Our January checks were less than what we were owed. The supervisor said that the partial pay was limited to 80 hours.
No hay suficiente personal, así que todos están trabajando horas extra, como 10 horas de las 20 normales. Ahora no nos pagan por estas horas.
There isn't enough staff, and so we are all having to work extra hours, often up to 10 hours on top of our 20 hours. That's our normal time. And we're not being paid now for those extra hours.
También a varios no nos han pagado el trabajo de los fines de semana de partido de baloncesto.
There are also many of us who haven't been paid when we have to work on weekends because there are basketball games.
Estamos siendo ignorados por los supervisores y persona de nómina. El superintendente y los líderes están diciendo que lo arreglarán y si tenemos problemas deberíamos llamar a la persona de nómina. Pero ¿qué deberíamos hacer si no contestan?
We're being ignored. We're being ignored by our supervisors and also by the administration. The superintendent and district leaders have said that they will take care of this, they will fix it, and that if we have problems, we should call the person from the administration who takes care of payroll. But what can we do if we don't get a response from them?
Salieron los cheques de febrero y no hay pago extra.
So now we got our February checks and we didn't have the extra pay.
Mi cheque de enero fue de 1,100, estuve corta 300.
My January check was for $1,100. That was 300 less than it should have been.
No me alcanza para pagar mi renta, los precios están subiendo, el estrés está afectando mi salud, tuve que renunciar para poder cuidar de mi salud.
It's not enough for me to be able to pay my rent, and prices are going up and up. The stress is starting to affect my health. I had to quit finally so that I could take care of my own health.
Otras personas se van porque no tienen otra opción y pueden obtener un mejor pago en otro lugar. Renuncié el viernes, mi compañera que está embarazada renunció el lunes porque tiene contracciones y es mucho trabajo lo que hay por el mismo sueldo. Estaban diciéndole que hiciera trabajo de 3 personas más y ella estando embarazada.
There are also other people who are quitting because they don't have any other option and they can find better jobs that pay better in other places. I quit on Friday. My colleague who is pregnant quit on Monday because she started to have contractions and it's too much work. The work is too heavy for the salary that we received. They told her they were making her do the work that should have been done by 3 people while she was pregnant.
Los líderes deben asegurarse que el cheque de pago debe ser correcto.
We need leadership to make sure that our checks are being made out for the correct amount.
No deberíamos estar llamando más de 5 veces y que la gente traiga 4 maneras diferentes para que paguen correctamente a tiempo por las horas trabajadas.
We shouldn't have to call more than 5 times and get 4 different answers about, what our pay is going to be or why the pay was incorrect. We should be paid correctly on time for all of the hours that we have worked.
And I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to cut you off there. I see you do have written remarks. If you want to submit them, we can take those as well, so we can follow up.
I will say if anyone is having issues with the payroll checks, please reach out to our payroll department. I would even go as far as to reach out to Mr. Teeter. We will ensure that translation services are there as well. I want to make sure we can communicate that with our staff. Yeah, if matter of fact, at this meeting, if you can leave Mr. Teeter the info, we'll make sure we have translation services there to address that.
Okay, let's take a brief pause. 'Cause I do want to make sure that folks the interpretation is not working for those who are watching us. So I want to take a brief pause to make sure that that is working before we get started again. So let's take a recess and then we'll get back in. Okay. We are back. We are going to do a little testing to ensure that our interpretation is working. So, test. You all hear? No? No? Okay, so let's pause and we're going to make sure that works. All right, so we'll do another quick recess to make sure it works. All right, we are back. Our interpretation is now working. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna go to our next group of speakers. We have Yamaleth, then we'll have Mika Tweetmeyer, Jen Painter will be next.
I am a custodian at Eastway, and I come to share a couple of things, a couple of
No, so Yamaleth. Okay, and so then we have Micah Tweetmeyer, Jen Painter, Asusena Chavez. Okay, there we go.
Good evening, Micah Tweetmeyer, President, Durham Association of Educators. I cede my time to Jen Painter.
Good evening, Jen Painter, Jordan High School ESL DAE member. I cede my time to Azucena Chavez. I'm a custodian at Eastway, and I come to share a couple of things, a couple inconvenience in regards to my work across a couple of things that have developed and with a couple of workers in regards of the cleaning. There's a couple points, important points that we should do at a work. For example, the hours, the normal hours or the extra hours. It's very stressful in our job daily. Superiors tell us that they are paying us at least 80 hours a month. And sometimes it's less hours and less work and less hours of work. There's very little personnel in the cleaning and more work to do for us. And even on top of that, the pay is less and it's necessary for us to finish everything on top of those hours. My job is part-time and it's only 4 hours, which I realize once I'm done with work daily. It is very true that the majority of others workers are better paid and much better job and less pay. It is necessary to give us more hours at work and raise the pay to retain ourselves personally every day in the area of the educators. Priority in the at work is to realize that the Board of Education. This is for a better salary and justice. That's why some of us are lifting our voices to tell you guys for a better pay and more hours at work. She also wanted to share that her daily work consists of 11 rooms, one hallway, 8 bathrooms in each of the 11 rooms every day. And she has to do that in 4 hours, which requires more time. It's not enough. She also has to take out the trash, sweep, mop, wipe windows if they are dirty, and she gets tired. She gets tired when she gets home, and she is a single mom with kids as well. She remains there because she needs that job, and she has been working there for 4 years. That would be it for the moment.
Thank you. Is there additional time, Ms. Smith? Okay.
Mi nombre es Azucena Chávez Trejo. Soy custodian de la escuela Eastway y vengo a compartir algunos de los muchos inconvenientes en cuanto al trabajo que desarrollamos como trabajadoras en lo que es la limpieza. Hay puntos muy importantes que se deben tomar por nuestro trabajo, las horas normales y las horas extras. Es estresante el trabajo diario. Superiores dicen que no se pagará más de 80 horas al mes. Como son menos horas de trabajo, hay poco personal de limpieza, más trabajo para nosotras y aún así lo que se nos está pagando es poco. Es necesario que haya un aumento y más horas. El trabajo de medio tiempo, que son 4 horas de mí por medio tiempo, 4 horas diarias que se realizan por más tiempo, por mucho trabajo diario. Lo que es muy cierto es que la mayoría se va a otros trabajos que estén mejor pagados por mucho trabajo y poco el pago en los planteles educativos. Es necesario dar más horas de trabajo y un mejor aumento para retener al personal en cada plantel educativo. Prioridad por el trabajo que realizamos en cada plantel educativo. Esto es por un salario mejor y justo. Por eso alzamos la voz al decir que se pague lo justo, hora de trabajo, hora pagado. Gracias.
Next, we have Jen Lee, Kim Gugino, Caroline Herbert.
Hi, my name is Jen Lee. I'm a media coordinator at Rogers River Middle School and a DAE member, and I'd like to cede my time to Kim Gugino.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Lewis. My name is Kim Gugino, and I proudly serve as the high school media coordinator at Durham School of the Arts, as well as the DPS high school media lead. I'm also speaking tonight on behalf of our middle school teacher librarian, Jenny Umbarger, who is unable to attend. We have just wrapped up Library Lovers Month in February, and I truly appreciate the opportunity to share some of DPS's library love tonight. My hope is that the board, Dr. Lewis, and all stakeholders will continue to prioritize our library media centers by hiring and retaining licensed media coordinators and by providing adequate funding for books, programming, and resources that support literacy instruction in every school. I'm here to ask that you continue to protect what matters most to the students who need it most, their school library media centers and the resources they provide. Our library media centers are not quiet rooms with dusty books. They are active, vibrant parts of the school day. Here are just a few examples from our secondary schools across the district. At Hillside, passive programming like puzzles and art stations, along with partnerships with teen librarians at Stanford Warren Public Library, have created lunchtime programs that have significantly increased student engagement. At Jordan, circulation has increased 74% compared to this time last year. They have hosted an exhibit on North Carolinians who experienced the Holocaust, one of our several programs that helped push their door count to above 13,000 visits to date this year. At Riverside, students participated in an author visit by Helena Haywood Henry through a collaboration with First Book and Penguin Random House. They're also partnering with News Literacy Project and engaging the entire student body with the Kids Voting Durham County participatory budgeting process. At Northern, circulation has increased 33% from last year. Students are excited about reading and regularly gather in the library to share and discuss books with their peers. And at DSA, the library hosted the Kids Voting Durham School Board Candidate Forum and supported more than 1,000 students participating in the recent Kids Voting Durham election. And we are also collaborating with our ELA teachers to apply science of reading strategies and using our collections to meet the diverse needs of all of our students. We understand the board is facing extremely difficult budget decisions. Cutting library funding or positions means cutting access to books, technology, trusted adults, and stability for the students who rely on us most. In Durham Public Schools, we value equity. Our library media centers are where equity happens. As you set budget priorities, please remember that every child deserves access to resource-rich libraries. That's a tongue twister. And librarians who know students. Thank you for your time and for your leadership. Leave the rest of my time to the next person, Carolyn Herbert.
Good evening. My name is Caroline Herbert, and I am one of 2 school library media coordinators at Hillside High School. I'm also a parent of a student at Riverside High School and a proud member of DAE. Throughout my 21 years in DPS library media centers, first at Oak Grove Elementary and now for the last 9 years at Hillside, my students have benefited greatly from our school receiving the full per capita media budget. Thank you for continuing to fully fund our library media centers year after year. With this funding, I have been able to maintain a collection of current, relevant, high-quality materials for both leisure reading and instruction. As an international baccalaureate school, this is especially important. All 10th grade students in our middle years program engage in the personal project, an exploratory research paper on a topic of their own personal choosing. That is every 10th grader in our school. Our 11th and 12th grade students in the diploma program complete a multitude of research papers, including a college-level 4,000-word extended essay involving in-depth academic research. Our school library media center is an invaluable resource for them because we have consistently received our full funding allotment. All of my students can find books that are mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors, because we are able to provide a diverse collection that reflects both the cultures within our building, which are changing every day, and those out in the wider world. Thank you for enabling our school library media centers to truly be hubs for learning.
Thank you. And our last two speakers will be Heidi Jo Hetland and Christy Clem.
Good evening, and thanks for allowing us the opportunity to speak. I'm Heidi Jo Hetland. I'm a physical therapist of 35 years, unbelievably, and I've been with DPS for 4 years. I'm a DAE member, and I'm a parent of 2 DPS grads from different schools. The therapists, as you know, PT, OT, and our OT assistants have shown up at these meetings for the past 2 years after the pay debacle, which is still can be seen being referred to as a payroll error. I can count on one hand, the number of times my lead has missed these meetings in the past 2 years. She has been relentless. It is related but unrelated to her job, and she has tirelessly been working to get the data for not just therapists, but for all the classified staff over the past couple years on her weekends and her evenings. Our PT team is much smaller than OT. We are, last year at this time, we were a team of 8, and right now we are a team of 5. We did not fill empty positions, and we have somebody out on leave. And so there's 5 of us covering the whole district at a time that is very heavy on IEP meetings and other things that need to be done during that 4th quarter. We have one therapist who is leaving at the end of this year, and there are at least one other therapist who's approaching retirement age. And without the proposed changes to the therapist salary schedule, these positions will not be filled. Students' IEP services will go unmet, and these children's need will not be met. We show up for our students and teams daily. Evening and weekend hours are spent at home doing documentation that is necessary to comply with IEPs, DPS, DPI rules and regulations, as well as our individual licenses. We show up at continuing education courses that we are required to attend for our professional licenses. We pay out of pocket for them, and we do them on our own time. If we do them during a school day, we are required to make up all the visits we missed for the students. We have shown up relentlessly, and we are asking the board to show up for us now. Thank you.
Hello, Christy Clem, physical therapist, member of DAE. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. I don't know if there's a whole lot I can say after Heidi Jo just went. We have a very dedicated group. I definitely really hope the occupational therapy assistants are considered. There's no PT assistants. I think there's 6 CODAs. It's a very small group. And, you know, like I said last time, they are the workhorse with the therapy services that they're providing. So please keep OTPT and CODAs at the forefront during this. But I also want to speak on all classified staff. Folks I interacted with today, custodians to help make sure I had a clean floor to sit to work with a child who can't sit up by themselves yet. People in the warehouse. Contrio helps me over there almost every day moving equipment or getting desks to somebody that need it for the right ergonomics to give them the chance to be independent and participate with peers. Talked to bus staff today. Met with transportation safety assistants on Tuesday to do a collaborative training to make sure that those folks are able to help keep students safe to get here and to get back home. IT to help with, making sure we can communicate securely with outside providers. Nasiba helps me in the IT world on a regular basis. There's so many. Oh, let's go see the nutrition staff. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the right name right now. Collaborate with them regularly. Let's use this tray. How can they hand a tray to a student so they can be independent and participate? Classified staff across the district in all ways help support our students. Those in EC and those in Gen Ed. All classified staff. Show that they're a priority. Please don't just say they're a priority. I'm so tired of hearing classified's a priority. Please show something. Do an action that lets classified people know they are important and they are the backbone. Teachers, we all know what teachers do.
Thank you. And that concludes. We'll add one more. Got 2 minutes. You can state your name And if you represent an organization, state your name and the name of the organization. You know the rules though, Mr. Say Mr. Hen.
Good evening, Quentin Hedden, Riverside High School Instructional Assistant for the EC Classroom, as well as Durham Association of Educators proud member. I don't have enough time to tell you the list and the responsibilities and the duties that we have, but I do have it here in my hand, and I want to submit this to you so that you can see firsthand what we do on a daily basis. But also, I want you to also understand that in the EC classrooms for classified staff, we have been under. And what I mean by that is we have been understaffed for years. And yet we do multiple classrooms, which is not part of the requirement here. But it's something that we do because we know in order to make our program successful, we do it anyway. Right now, as y'all saw when I came up here, I was limping. I have muscle damage in my left leg. And I still go to my job, climb my flights of stairs to go to my classroom, go back downstairs to the MU classroom, and do changing, which is also part of this, and toileting and medication procedures or medical procedures for my kids. I do this on a daily basis. So I want to say, first and foremost, please let the classified staff really be a priority. Like she said, show us that they are really a priority. And last thing I'm going to say, 5% is not enough. It's not enough. Literally 5% of what I do, and I've been doing this for 10 years. When I got my tax returns and I got my W-2s, I've been doing this for 12 years now. I'm only making $28,000. I have been given a letter by the state 3 years in a row for foreclosure on my property that I pay a property tax for. And I just luckily get it paid for. And I prioritize my bills and stuff all the time. So I implore you, please make the classified staff a real priority.
Thank you. And that will conclude our public comment on the budget. Board members, do y'all have any comments this evening? Ms. Byer?
I want to appreciate everyone who's come out tonight and appreciate the thoughtful ways that you have shared your lived experience with us. That is so helpful as we shape our priorities. I think one thing that continues to come up is questions about our living wage, how we can, when the state gives us $15 an hour, how we can maximize our pay for folks. And so I know that's something that I will be wrestling with, and I know colleagues are too. I've heard references to our living wage policy and how that aligns with the county's setting the living wage and how we're behind the county. And as having lived that experience of having advocated for raising that for many, 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 many budget cycles, I wrestle with how to continue to uplift that and also deal with compression that is so important to deal with and be honest about what we can do and be honest with folks. So I know I'll be happy to advocate and wrestle with that along with the community and colleagues. I wondered, Mr. Teeter, and this might be a question for you and Dr. Lewis to think about before we meet next, but I seem to recall between last week and this week that we had a budget priority last year about EC students and trying to deal with more investment in EC students in a longer term way that would help us get near that state cap, or it, you know how that state cap keeps hitting us. And so that's something that I wondered if we had any possibility of relooking at. And I sit with this in knowing how grim the county manager was with her conversation last week, but I thought I might as well just put it into the conversation. I struggle also with the need for a bond because knowing that the average age of our facilities is 60 years plus, that we get complaints valid all the time, that our HVAC systems and our roofs need urgent repair. I struggle with making sure that we maintain that need for the county. And then as I'm looking at some of the things we've done locally anything you all might have to evaluate whether bonuses and pay that we put in are actually having the intended effect. I think is super helpful. But I really am appreciative of folks that have been able to attend and bring voice to the needs of folks. And I look forward to folks that weren't able to attend, continuing to email us, call us, be in dialogue as we continue to wrestle with this budget. So thank you so much.
Ms. Cardon.
I'll just very briefly echo the gratitude that Ms. Byer voiced for everybody that came this evening. It's incredibly helpful for us to hear how our decisions impact those of you who are working with our students every day and who are in our buildings. And it's not easy to get up and share your experiences, especially when they are painful ones. So thank you for doing that. These are dark times for public education, but having this organizing and these voices give me hope during these dark times. So thank you.
Any other comments? Again, thank you all who came this evening. We appreciate it. The next step in our budget, there will be another draft presented at our work session next Thursday. It starts at 5:30. It'll be streaming online, but we'll also be here. It's another opportunity to give public comment if you want to come before the meeting and comment on that budget. And then the date for the board to approve the budget is the next meeting in March, which is, I don't have it on top of my head, March 26th. So that is the time to get feedback to the board so we can be ready to approve that budget. Dr. Lewis, any other comments?
Yeah, I just want to send also my gratitude to the community for coming out, and I hope this board and the community has seen our ways in terms of increasing engagement, from surveys to budget town halls to additional hearings, so that we can hear what our priorities should be. And I hope you truly understand that we are working feverishly to ensure that we are able to show our commitment to our classified workers. Having lived in Missouri, they call them the show me state. I get it. You know, we want to show you. And so we definitely want to do that. It has always been my focus. Even in my previous district, when there was one pot of money, we always wanted to ensure that our classified staff, our lowest paid workers, get the larger percentage of that pot. You know, it's definitely no stranger to my family. My grandmother, having spent 40+ years as a food service worker, and to be in the house and see her come home so tired, you know, I understand, and we definitely want to make sure that we are addressing our classified staff. Thank you.
You. Both of my grandmothers worked in child nutrition as well. We could have a whole different conversation about what else they did before then, right, as domestic workers in the South. But anyway, thank y'all again for being here this evening. And with that, we'll close our meeting. Thank you.